it or don't like it, learn to love it because it is the best thing going.
And welcome back to the Boundary Corner podcast, along with my partners Brian Siegler and Jonathan Talibans. I am Curtis Wilson, and we are brought to you by Moments on the Maury. Looking for a weekend getaway this summer or fall? Then Moments on the Maury might be exactly what you are looking for. Owned by a very proud Hokie and located just outside Lexington, Virginia, this place gives you everything you can think of for a great mountain experience. Fishing, kayaking, just relaxing by or in the river, right outside the back door. Check it out in our links or visit Moments on the Maury on their Instagram page. Gentlemen.
What's happening, man? What's happening?
How are y'all tonight? Tell me you on mute. People telling me on calls all the time. You're on mute. You're on mute. Get off mute. You gotta talk. You off mute. Can you hear us?
I think I'm off. Now.
He is off mute.
Off mute.
We got you.
Mute. We got you. What's been up, guys? We have been running around in circles this spring since the spring game. It felt like. How's life?
We had a little false start last week. We got the same structure this week, but it's fun because we had a couple more commits come through since then, so we got a little bit more to kind of pad the end of this episode a little bit. But yeah, we had a couple snafus here or there last week that caused us to punt. But hey, we're back here. We're doing it live as we normally do, and we got a fun special guest we're going to introduce here shortly.
Tally, what you been
We
up
punted.
to, man?
We didn't have 2-0. Yeah, we punted. We didn't have 2 zeros on the field, so we all right. We made it.
We didn't get called for a penalty. We just punted the ball.
This what I'm.
We got
This is what I'm gonna say. A little bit off topic before we get our guest on here, because I think most of our chat is probably right around the same age we are. You get into those golden ages. I understand. I want to know, man. Y'all put in the chat what is the best biopic that you've seen. The best, movie about somebody's life. The reason I'm asking that is because I watched Michael. I mean, everybody got to see Michael, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to watch it.
All right.
Go ahead, Curtis. What you gonna say?
I'm not going to say, but what I'm going to say is 2 weekends ago, my mother came into town, gave me and wife date night, and we went into a local steakhouse. And I said, we should go to the movie. We should go see Michael. And she's like, I just don't feel like going. She's like, it's a 7:30 start. It's like a 2.5-hour movie, right?
Yeah.
She's like, I'm going to fall asleep. And now she's looking at me mad.
Yeah.
Everybody's saying it's so good. We should have went. I'm like,
I'm just saying.
I laid it out there. I literally said we should go.
I think everybody our age at least should watch it. You know what I'm saying? But me being a huge Michael Jackson fan and knowing a lot about him and watching a lot of movies about him, they made a movie way back when. I think it's called The American Dream.
Oh yeah.
It just had more in that movie than this one had. If you really want to know about his life, you know what I'm saying? But not a bad movie. So I did come here to advocate everybody go see it or do like I did and just be able to watch it, if you know what I mean.
Got you.
Because I didn't go to the theater.
Yeah, I feel like American Dream had so much of the Jackson 5 stuff and off the wall, and then everything else was kind of rushed through.
Yeah, it was like an origin story.
Yeah,
for a villain or something. You know what I'm saying? And then it was just at the end. Anyway, I mean, I just feel like it was a lot left lacking. Yes, Jason, that is a good biopic. Lincoln. If y'all haven't seen that, it is a good biopic. That's not my favorite. My favorite biopic is probably The Temptations. But again, I didn't want to throw a whole segment about movies, but I did have to shout out my boy Michael Jackson, the greatest of all times, man.
I'm gonna throw Ray out there. Ray is probably my favorite.
Ray is it. That's a close second. Ali, that's another one. Like
I'll throw one, and this is old, and I mean, well before. I mean, a couple of years before we were born. You ever watch Raging Bull?
Oh yeah,
Boxing about Jake LaMotta.
Yeah.
That's mine. That's
Brian's song with James Caan.
Brian's song with James Caan. Oh yeah. Oh man. A lot of good ones. Well, you know what? We got a lot of fun to talk about, and believe it or not, now he's in the back room, like thinking, "Oh man, I know what's going to happen the second I get on." But tonight we have a very special guest, another one of our good friends from 247, longtime writer, contributor to 247 Sports. Tonight we have Doug Bowman joining us, so we'll get him on the stage. Make sure he's off mute. And Doug, Tally let it off. What is your favorite biopic?
I was thinking about this while you guys were talking, and thanks for stalling because I had to pull up a list of like, all right, I need something to trigger my memory. It's Walk the Line.
I was gonna say Walk the Line. Walk the
Yeah.
Line's a good movie too. I was hoping
Yeah.
somebody said that. Chat, hey, we got some good ones coming in. Doug just came with another banger. I need to know what's y'all's best biopic. Doug, keep going, buddy.
I was gonna say Walk the Line with Johnny Cash. It's on the list of movies that you whenever it's on, you're flipping through. Not that many people flip through the channels anymore, but you see it and you just watch it no matter where you are in the movie, pick it up right where it left off. So I don't know how many times I've seen it, but it's good.
Nice. Well, it's always funny because you talk about like the biopics, and some people don't think of certain movies as biopics because, like American Gangster,
Yeah.
people wouldn't think of that, but that's basically Frank Lucas's life.
Yeah.
Like not his whole life, but a good portion of his life. And then there's so many other ones like Catch Me If You Can. Again, that like you don't think of them as biopics, but they are.
Is Wolf of Wall Street one though?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would definitely say Wolf of Wall Street is one.
I didn't even think
100%.
about that, but yeah.
Hey,
I mean-
we just go ahead and call. Goodfellas.
Yes. Yes.
Scorsese, like half his repertoire is technically biopics. So
Well, did y'all see the tweet yesterday? It was like the March 11th was at like 5 a.m. was the day he got busted. Like that whole scene in the movie for
Yeah.
the day, like doing all the crazy stuff. It was 5/11/1980 is when it happened. Like started at 5 a.m. because he was off like the cocaine bender.
yeah, and he was like paranoid as hell. Like
We didn't got down a road that we could be like 12 o'clock. Let's talk
Yeah.
Hokie football and Hokie sports, everybody, with Doug Bowman after 14 hours of talking about biopics. Good
My
one,
bad,
Al.
Curtis. I didn't mean to get you
That's good.
started today, man. I was just trying to get the
I love
creative
it.
juices flowing.
Well, I
hey,
love
we got
it.
an idea for a spin-off podcast now. So.
Spin-off
Yeah.
podcast, the biopic. Well, Doug, first of all, how you been doing, man? This is your first time with us. Obviously, we followed you for years with your writings and stuff on 247. So how you doing? And then how did you stumble upon 247? Because, like, you have a day job, like us three do. Like, how did that happen? How did your relationship start with 247 back about, I guess, a decade ago?
Yeah, has it been? I think it was definitely before COVID, which is now like suddenly 6 years ago. So we're
Yeah.
close to a decade. I started writing about Virginia Tech actually back in 07, Tyron's first year. I was at Hokie Haven with Brian
Okay.
Moore and that kind of
Nice.
during that era. There's been so many kind of like eras of the Virginia Tech recruiting sites. And then Jason Stam came on and took over there, and then went to the VT scout site at the time. So I was over there for a little bit. And I think I jumped on the VT Scoop. Must have been 2018-ish, somewhere around there. Yeah, but just knowing I had done it for a while at Hokie Haven and Scout, and had kind of taken a couple years off and wanted to get back into it. So I reached out, and happened to be the right time.
Nice, man. What was that journey like? I know you said you were writing for Hokie Haven and doing all that. Have you has that just been like a passion project for you, or just being in the Virginia Tech sports realm and just loving that so much, that's kind of been, what's kind of kept that drive for you?
Yeah, a little bit of both, I'd say probably. I started writing there when I was in 8th grade. Probably nobody reading knew that at the time. But I was 2007 Tyrod's first year. So I was always the kid that wanted to be on ESPN growing up and all that stuff. Got to college, got to sit in the press box and do that during school, and realized I didn't want to do that for my job. I enjoy the fandom. I enjoy being in the stands. I enjoy all that stuff that you don't get to do when you're covering the games and stuff. So that was a great lesson, but I enjoy, like you said, kind of like a passion project of just something I enjoy doing on the side.
That's very nice. So, like, so many people that it's part of it. And obviously, what year did you graduate from Tech?
2015.
2015. Okay. That doesn't
So I
make
got
me feel
one
good.
good year with Logan Thomas when he was good, and then after that, it went, to 6 and 6.
Mediocre.
Yeah.
What was it? No, never 6 and 6. Never losing during Frank's time. 7 and 6, 8 and 5,
Yeah.
7 and 6.
Yep.
So your first year was Sugar Bowl year.
Correct.
Danny
Yep.
caught the ball.
Yep. Exactly.
Did you go to New Orleans?
Did not.
Okay.
Got tickets. Couldn't figure out how to get there. It was broke. All that stuff. But I mean, the peak was definitely beating Ohio State and Columbus in 14. That was. I guess that was technically this fall of senior year. So, I mean, that was the peak of the football experience during my time there. We were all seniors, went up, there's probably 100 of us there. Just a classic like college experience of being up there with all of your college buddies. And then you actually win the game. Stopped at the casino in, where's the casino in West Virginia? Charleston.
Yeah.
The Mardi Gras, stopped there on the way. I mean, it was just, 22 with nothing else to worry about.
Tally, you been to that one? You been to
Have
the
you been?
Charleston Casino?
I never want to go to West Virginia. I don't care what kind of casino they have. I don't want to be there. So anything in West Virginia, this definitely don't need me in it. But no, I ain't been there. I went to the one in Bristol, but I haven't been to one in West Virginia.
Nice. Well, I was going to ask you what was like your game. Clearly, you laid it right out there with the visit to the Horseshoe with the win back in 2014.
Miami, the Logan Thomas Miami game was my freshman year, and it was probably the best home game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David Wilson.
Yeah.
Lost 2 games that year to the same team.
Yep.
Clemson twice, unfortunately. All right, well, let's get into it. We got a lot of stuff to unload and talk with Doug about. We are going to get kind of the biggest topics that we're going to talk with Doug as we get later into the program is the retiring of Tim Sands, the retiring of Whit Babcock, and how that's kind of all going to shake out. If y'all never followed Doug, first of all, give him a follow at Doug Bowman 247. Doug somehow knows how to navigate certain things in the stratosphere of governments and contracts, and the next thing you know, Doug puts it out. Here's what's going to happen, and you're like, "Oh my God, that!" And 3 days later, it happens. So give him a follow if you don't do anything tonight. Also, if you are a 247 member, check out his writings. Obviously, a lot of good stuff. But we're going to start non-football first. And when this popped up just a few days ago, I was in a little bit of disbelief because you don't hear about non-rev sports getting this kind of donation at Virginia Tech. And what the Jester family from Virginia Beach did by giving $1 million, $1 million to the wrestling program, and now it's left open as a $1 million match out there now. What they're asking for is wild. So, Doug, I'll start with you. Being a Tech alum, knowing how good the wrestling program is, did that color you shocked, or had there been buzzings that like this was going to happen soon?
Yeah, I hadn't heard anything about that kind of donation to wrestling, as you said, like a non-revenue sport. It's been the sport that Virginia Tech's probably closest to winning a national championship in for several years now. They have a really loyal following and donor base and all that stuff, which has allowed them to be really successful for a really long time. So, it's not all that surprising to get kind of a unique donation to a sport with that kind of support and community and kind of long time success that they've had. But like you kind of said, like $1 million in that kind of sport is, especially in today's kind of rev share, I don't know how much or what the plans are for that kind of money, but I'm sure they'll put it to good use to try and get over the hump. And I don't really understand wrestling, college wrestling, to be honest. The whole I watch them when there's a big match on or something and like try and understand what's happening, but I can't figure it out. But it's definitely the sport where it seems like they're gearing up to make that push next year. And Tony Roby's done a great job of building probably the most sustainable program at Virginia Tech for the last 15 years. Yeah.
Not a lot. Brian,
I mean,
what did you think about it?
Yeah, it's just you keep starting stacking these wins. I mean, you had a bunch of recruiting wins, behind this, and all of a sudden you've got this influx, and I don't know if one begat the other or what was going on there, but this really puts you in a really good spot heading into a season where you feel, I think, really good about your roster top to bottom and kind of how you match up across the board. I don't know if it's enough to get us into the national championship conversation, but you're certainly going to be at least in probably the top of the heap of that next group there. Kind of puts you firmly in a top 5 category, and you get that close, you can have a couple things go your way. You might put yourself in a really good spot as you kind of move through the season coming up here. It's just going to be exciting because I think you're going to see this is a team that's already consistently tops of the ACC. There's really only a handful of other schools that have similar caliber or better caliber programs than Virginia Tech at this point. So if this is the thing that gets them over the hump, it could be really huge.
Tally, anything on this when you read the news and saw the thing?
Yeah, no, I'm kind of like Doug said when it comes to wrestling. Like, I know when they say somebody wins or somebody loses, but I never know what's going on. Like, all I know is when NWO comes out with Sting and Hulk Hogan and The Rock, stuff like that. Like, I know that kind of wrestling, but I don't know nothing about the rules and stuff. But I do know. I will say this: we need football to be good. We need football to be good, and I think James Franklin being at Virginia Tech definitely plays a part in what some of the other sports are able to do. Again, wrestling is its own thing, and they've been doing a great job. But I do feel like when you do have a lot of buzz around your program, that it creates excitement. So I'm not saying that $1 million gift wasn't already in the works, but I think getting a serious, football coach, and then all of the changes that are coming from up top probably had somebody said, "Oh, they're looking at being serious about it. Yeah, I'd like to get in on that." So keep doing that, everybody. We need everybody to be good.
We do. But I get what you're saying, Tally. Sometimes that stuff is the springboard, right? Like,
yeah,
everything from last August with the focus back, putting a lot of money back towards football, hiring a big name coach, making some serious moves. Maybe there is that donor out there that loves the wrestling program that says, you know what, if I write $1 million, some of the other money can funnel back into football. By the way, Doug, you just need to sign somebody who likes wrestling and wrestled in college. We've had Joe Rogers on here. Believe it or not, as much shenanigans as Joe causes, Joe knows wrestling really well.
He knows wrestling. He
knows wrestling. The other guy is one of my fraternity brothers from Longwood, named David Fuqua. He wrestled in college. I text him all the time, and he can tell me what happened. And this guy right here, who's our music man, wrestled in high school, coached middle school. Like, if you get somebody who understands wrestling and you sit with them, they can tell you what's happening, and then it makes sense. Now, what's the issue is the next time there's a match, you're like, I forgot everything he told me while we were sitting. It's gone.
I just sit there when it'll be on ACC Network or one of those big matches they have, and like people start screaming and saying 2-2-2, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know why that, but good job.
Hey,
Good
Joe
job.
Rogers, if you're out there listening, make an AI chat agent, Joe Rogers, that we can just queue up anytime a match is on, so we'll know what's up.
Matches on. Like,
Yeah,
please
for real.
explain to us. Do a live stream of what's going on with wrestling.
It's like when the NFL does like a Nickelodeon cat
Yeah,
to like dumb
exactly,
it down a little bit.
exactly.
We need the simpler version.
I need the overlay. Give me the
Yeah.
overlays.
What's happening here?
I need
All right.
pop-up video for this wrestling match.
All right. One more non-ref talk discussion. Yeah, I know you said we should talk about it, Doug, but I am going to talk about it. First of all, big kudos to women's softball. Again, 7 straight regionals, 7 straight NCAA tournament appearances. That's you. I don't care what your program is, where you are. Making 7 times to the NCAA tournament is huge. They get basically the 17 seed, and basically a lot of chaos that happened because there was, it was because you're having graduation. You can't host. There's not enough people. First of all, that stadium's only like 2,300. It's not a massive 10,000 seat stadium. So that's the first thing. Then it's like, your record kind of hurts you. LSU's better. Like, we played like some of the same teams that LSU did, and we beat them 6. I don't think they had a 6-0 record. So you got mutual competition. I just and Doug, you make such a fair point on Twitter. How are we going to host some of these games in the fall with football? I mean, are we going to be able to have enough hotels?
Yeah, I put out a snarky tweet, and I got to give credit to Sam Mostow. Hope I said that right at Tech Sideline, who did actual reporting to figure out what the deal was. I mean, it makes sense it makes sense once you hear it. Like, it's a quick turn, graduation weekend, all the hotels are booked up. For the Georgia Tech football game in the fall, Virginia Tech will have secured that hotel for Georgia Tech well in advance, and there's no problem with that. Like, the reasoning makes sense. What didn't make sense was why the selection committee chair even led with that. Like, if they're not a top 16 seed, then there's no reason to mention the hotels or anything.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reason they're not hosting, is because they're not a top 16. But to even bring that into the conversation felt like an own goal, and they kind of asked for that reaction. So could that really be the real reason? Perhaps, but you look at it on the kind of, if you just look at the facts of trying to turn around in a week and host 4 teams in Blacksburg, sure, it makes sense with graduation going on and having all the hotels booked up. I guess you could argue, can we extend the radius a little bit to fit some more hotels in there? But I guess the rules are the rules.
Yeah, and I guess that radius only included most of Salem and kind of that area. Didn't quite extend all the way through the better part of Roanoke and all that stuff.
Right.
So a good portion of the hotels in Roanoke were kind of out of play, and all this other stuff with that.
Which is interesting because for years, I know they stopped doing it in the last couple of years, but Tech would stay in Roanoke before football games.
Yeah.
No problem. Just get a police escort. You're in Blacksburg pretty quickly. There was never a concern about, we're too far. I know there was stuff about recruiting that made it inconvenient, but it wasn't a problem when you have some resources to help you, to help you figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know they like having, guys on campus so you can do stuff with, hosting and recruiting, and that makes more sense from it being in Blacksburg versus in Roanoke. But what's the rule, 30-mile, 50-minute drive?
Or it might have been the other way, 30 minutes or 45 miles or something like that.
Yeah. And I know that based on what they were saying, it put a good majority of the Roanoke area out of play from a hotel standpoint. So I get that part of it, but to your point, why even go down that road if you're saying they're not a top 16 seed anyway?
Right. That's the answer.
If they weren't in play, then why even have the conversation?
Yeah.
I think that's the issue. I think we were. I think we were, and then it was just like, well, we can't really make this happen. So what can we do? We'll put them at 17.
And if you want to say that was the, we can't decide between these two teams, but they can accommodate everybody, so that's where we're going. That I'm fine cool. if that's the qualifying factor there. But like just to come out and say, well, they weren't a 16 anyway. Well, if you went down that road that far, they probably were.
They probably were. Tally, I know you love softball, so I mean, what do you guys?
I ain't got nothing, man. I got nothing to say. You know what? I do got something to say.
Oh, he got something. I see. You got to give him a second here. You got to wind him up.
Every time I looked at hotels in Blacksburg to come up for, I just looked at hotels for the VMI game. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. Why is it so high? Why does everything around that cost so much? I looked at Airbnb. I looked at Airbnbs. Somebody was charging $1,400 for. I think they said you could walk to the stadium from this Airbnb. I was like, no, I don't think I want to walk there. Not $1,400 for a night. It may have been 2 nights, but whatever the case is, I'm not doing it, man. So, hey, y'all got to get that hotel stuff taken care of. Because see, anytime I've come up for a game, we've stayed. I think we stayed in like what's called Withville, Christiansburg. Where's Radford?
Stayed in Radford sometime.
Radford, yeah. So I
didn't know before. You drove back to Bristol once.
So that's what I'm saying. There's been plenty of times that we've come up and we just had to stay. Like I've never stayed in Blacksburg when I went up there. So it's their fault, man. Y'all got them hotels too high. And you got them booked up and stuff, man. They wanted to let Virginia Tech host it, but the hotels is the problem.
All right, but you know what? We got a friend. Can you get some money together? I bet you he would build a hotel up there if he knew it was going to be profitable. You get the money scrounged up.
Well, the profitability is not the problem. It's getting all the permits and the land and everything by the Blacksburg Council and all that stuff that I think is hindering some of that front. And I don't know a shortcut around that. We know Blacksburg local politics is what it is. So.
No comment on that.
But we'll give you his name later, Tally. Let you give him a call.
We can get Jeremy on here and talk a little bit about the Blacksburg local politics.
I thought y'all was gonna say Phil. That's the only reason I asked who it was.
No, not Phil. It's another one of our buddies. But he's also actually, you know what, Brian? I might actually talk to Robbie about his new purchase. See if he wants to sponsor it on here.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Like, seriously, I think that'd be a good idea. We'll let y'all know about it after the show. The guys here. All right. Let's get to what we really want to talk about. Let's talk some football. Let's start with the recruiting aspect first, because since we last came on here, the recruiting has been absolutely on fire. It is something that I can say I can't personally recall the last time we sat in the teens. Yes, I know it's May. I don't remember the last time we were in the teens. And right now, per the site that Doug writes for, 247, we are 17th in the country. And this isn't with like 3 or 4 recruits. This is with 11 recruits. And if you look around, nobody around us has like 5 or 6. Everybody's in that same boat, 10, 11, 12, 13. And so, Doug, I want to start there and just, I know you do different writings, but obviously it's the site you write for. But what is your just initial thoughts of this wave right out of the gate with James Franklin and just the amount of the commits and the quality of the commits?
Yeah, I think the latter part is the big piece of it. The quality of the commits. I feel like every year around this time you get a run on commits. In May and June, people have taken their official visits, and it's decision time. The spots, you start to see the puzzle pieces play out of the spots getting taken up and stuff. But I think the big difference this year is really why you hired James Franklin. It's his recruiting ability. You look at, I think there's been a noticeable difference in the competition that Virginia Tech is winning these battles against compared to previous years. I started just jotting these down. This was last week, so I've only got a handful of them. But like Alex Taylor, they just going based off the 247 article that says he chose Virginia Tech over these schools. A&M, Tennessee, Auburn, Xavier Perkins, Miami, Louisville, Joseph Buchanan, NC State, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kelvin Morrison, Penn State, Miami, Braxton Salster, the tight end from Ole Miss, Auburn, Baylor. It just feels like a different level of competition that Virginia Tech is recruiting and winning recruiting battles against, and that's solely because of James Franklin and his recruiting ability, how his track record sells itself, which helps when you're recruiting to a new place like Virginia Tech. But you see them just like it's definitely feels different immediately in terms of just the quality of prospect they're getting in terms of like the other schools also recruiting these players.
Yeah, and you talk about the quality, and the thing that I've liked to look at, I love the overall ranking. You see it in the teens, but when you start looking at that average recruit rank, that's where I always look as far as a class in terms of how good is this class, and making those comparisons to kind of other schools in that same area, and that checks out just as well, if not better, than just looking at that overall rank, just because volume a lot of times plays a factor in that and things like that, whereas that average recruit rank, that's going to be there regardless of the size of the class that you're taking in, and that's continued to trickle up and up and up, and now we're looking at kind of the mid 88s, pretty consistently, looking at how Franklin wrapped up last class and kind of where this class is standing right now. And you got some heavy hitters, on the clock here coming up. So, that could go way up here, potentially in a couple days. So, excited for the quality, excited to see us flip DeMarcus Brown. I think that was, it's always good when you can eat off of little brother's plate a little bit, in the process of getting a quality prospect. And then, Chase Johnson sneaking in there, and hadn't really heard a whole lot about Virginia Tech being super in play there, and then he commits, and I thought that was a big one, beating out Florida State for that one. So I mean, there's just so many good things that are happening with this class so far that's got me excited.
The average recruiting ranking is notable, I think, for where we are kind of in the cycle of like, you want that to be pretty high at this point, because it means you're hitting at the top of your board or close to the top of the board, versus having to kind of go down further the board. You miss on your top targets, and then you're kind of going down the board for a lower ranked guy. So that's exactly what you want to see. I think the other thing that's notable, you talked about Chase Johnson. You can throw Salster in there from Alabama, but Stanley Smart from Georgia. They're stretching the footprint down into the Southeast. Right off the bat, you knew James Franklin was going to recruit Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Northern Virginia like it's the back of his hand. You knew he was going to go. He's going to be able to go into Charlotte and around the state of Virginia, and kind of within that like 3-hour radius of Virginia Tech is probably going to sell itself with James Franklin, where he didn't have as much experience as going further south into Georgia. Specifically, I think Norval McKenzie probably was a strategic hire for that. But when you can everyone talks about the 6-hour radius, and when you can start to really push those boundaries and take full advantage of the radius or footprint or whatever you want to call it, I think it's especially notable right off the bat. We're only 5 months into this tenure, basically.
Yeah, stretching it to that more of a 10-hour radius, reaching down into parts of Florida, getting into Georgia, getting into all those states where the depth of the classes coming out of those states is so much greater than what you see in Virginia, and there's a lot of factors that play into that, and you still have to I think Virginia still needs to be a focus, but at the same time, once you're out of the top 15, top 20 of the state, you can probably reach in some of those other states and get a comparable comparable talent.
Chase Johnson,
much
Chase
further
Johnson.
much further down their in-state list, but as far as their overall ranking is concerned, they'd be a top 10 player if they were similarly ranked in Virginia. So
100%. Tally, you've been quiet. What do you want to say on this matter?
No, man, I'm just listening. I mean, y'all kind of hit on what I was gonna say. I'm glad, of course, they're putting a emphasis on trying to recruit the state and the footprint. But the footprint is you got to get talent as well. Now, not no stupid ass shit like Texas the VT and let's forget about Virginia. Of course, we're not thinking that, but just like you were saying, I think Curtis was saying, or maybe Brian, when you look at some of the caliber of recruits, just the depth that some of the recruits or states have for their recruits, you may be looking at a 50th in the state, but he's ranked at 89. It's just different sometimes. And then listening to what some of the recruits say, I can't remember which was. I think it was the running back from Georgia when Kobe did an interview with him, and he just talked about why now, what was the time, why was it the time to commit, and he's saying I got to get in. I don't want to lose my spot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like it is May. You know what I'm saying? And you got kids already saying that about Virginia Tech when we were begging people to come in at some points. Not all the time, but sometimes in our recruiting, Fuente eras, we had people that we was just trying to get a kid in, just trying to get anybody to, and now you got kids saying, I got to get in early so I don't lose my spot, because I would hate for somebody to take my spot and I not have that spot. I know they're building something up there. So kudos to the staff and James Franklin, like you said, stretching that footprint. I don't know. Did we? I looked at when you asked me what I was doing, I was looking at the rundown, Curtis. Did we talk about the big recruit on Thursday in the rundown any?
We're gonna get there.
We're gonna get there. Hold on, we're gonna get there.
I was trying to see it. I didn't know if it was on there, so I didn't want to.
That was not on there. I missed it, but Brian brought it up. But
I'll say this. Because Doug brought him up. The kid from Alabama is good. The kid from Alabama is good. He's a phenomenal athlete he's a big fish in a small pond right now. He goes to one of the smaller schools in Alabama. I think it's a 2A school, and he is dominating people in that. Until they get to the playoffs, there's nobody who can do what he's doing that he plays against. All of the schools are going to be similar to him or to his school. I think they may have went like 10-2 last year. They may have been lost one game in the regular season, but just thinking about like that is usually that's a Auburn type of player. I wouldn't say Alabama caliber for how Alabama recruits, but most of the time Auburn comes in, and then even schools like South Alabama. But even when we stay in the SEC, like Ole Miss was hard on this kid. So for them to sneak in, down in Pleasant Valley, Alabama, which is Jacksonville. I went to Jacksonville State. His school is in Jacksonville, Alabama. For them to sneak in and be like, hey, we need you to come here for an athlete like that, 6'5", he plays basketball. It just lets me know like the recruiting, prowess that they have, that they're going after it, man. And I it's interesting to see. It makes it fun again. You know what I'm saying? Like now I got to put Doug on. I got to turn my notices on for Doug and Kobe and Evan so I can know what's going on. Because for years I was just like, man, it don't matter. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? You're going to give me what, 85, 84, 82. No disrespect to the kids, man, but I'm just being real. Now I'm getting excited about it a little bit more because, I mean, when you start saying, I know sometimes when people write the articles, they may say, oh, he chose Virginia Tech over this school, right? But if you really look at it and you go back, because I go follow visits and things like that, and I'm like, oh, this coach was in to see this kid. Oh, he's got pictures with. He just went there. Okay, we doing something. Curtis, I ain't mean to step in front of you, man. What you had to say?
You didn't step in front of me, but obviously I was going to kind of let us go around and talk about the recent wave of commits, and I expected you to talk about Braxton. He's from Alabama. You know about him. But I'm going to flip it to our guest, Doug. Of all these recent commits, of this big groundswell that's been happening the last about 3 weeks here, is there a certain one you point out and just like that kid right there? Whether it's tape, his offer list, maybe things you read about him. Is there one that just pops out to you that's like, that's my guy? That's who I'm glad we got him in the boat.
I'm gonna go with Brian's guy, but DeMarcus Brown, I think, at wide receiver. Okay. I think Virginia Tech has recruited with Fontel Mines, has recruited the wide receiver position extremely well on paper for the last several years. It hasn't quite yet paid off on the field. So like continuing to stock that position is a big one for me. I know they got Roberts too at that spot, but he's a composite 4-star from your in-state rival at this point of the process, like pretty solid job, but not like a late in the cycle type flip. So they did a really good job recruiting him, and he's one of those. That's one of those premium positions. One of James Franklin's like go-to quotes these days is that like, what does he say? He says running backs have to make like 3 people or 4 people miss before they're gone, whereas receivers, like they make one guy miss and they're gone. So he's trying to put a big premium on the wide receiver position, maybe more so than he did at Penn State. But I think Brown in particular at, the 247 has him at 6'3.5 as a 4-star wide receiver. That's the kind of like high level talent that you just need to stock at that position. So you have like 3 really good ones at the top of your depth chart.
Brian, is yours DeMarcus? Is that your guy right now? Do you have another one?
It's between him and Chase Johnson. And I mean, just looking at both of those, those are areas that you need to get some bodies in there. Outside of the trenches, you want to get as many cornerbacks and wide receivers in the room. It's a position that, if things go well, they can play quickly, and I think that's important as we're trying to level up the talent in this roster. Is getting those high caliber, high profile players in the building and see what they can do right away. Probably cornerback even more so than wide receiver. If a cornerback has the skill set, you can get them out there pretty quick. So, get more bodies in the building like a Chase Johnson, I think is going to be real important to continue to keep the trajectory of that room moving forward. Because, when we look back just to last year, man, that room was in complete shambles. And what Franklin has been able to do with wrapping up the 26 cycle in the transfer portal, and now what he's starting to do in the 27 cycle. I mean, this is really turning something that was an absolute negative in 2025 into, you're looking at a pretty good plus room heading into this year, and it's only going to get better as this class grows up.
All right, I'm gonna throw mine out there before we hit that topic that's happening on Thursday that Tally wants to talk about. But I want to go Kelvin Morrison. Well, first of all, we've been talking about James Franklin starting to create a further footprint down south. Doug, I'm with you. The reason Norval was hired was for that Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama. The reason Fontel was kept on because of that. The reason Matt Moore was kept on was because of the Ohio, New Jersey type connections that he's always made. So he made a very conscientious effort to make sure we've got to go further south, because to what Tally said and what we're all agreeing to here is some of those states, the 50th ranked player is as good as the top 10, top 15 in other states. And when you snatch one of them, that's how you start building depth. But the Morrison pick for me, it's more of he is that borderline 4-star running back out of Pennsylvania. But it shows that he is not going to forget that area. Doug, you said he shouldn't have a problem recruiting, but he's proven, I'm not going to forget about y'all. Yes, I moved down to Virginia. Virginia's still our home base, but I'm going to keep coming back up north. I'm going to keep looking for players in this area to come in. We lost Brian. That's very strange. I don't know what's going on there, so hopefully he'll jump back on in a second here.
Stole my internet.
He stole your internet. You stole his internet. That's what went on there. But when you see that, I think that's what happened last week. But when you see that, when you see him continuously pulling a 4-star out of there, and then like the St. Francis Academy guys out of Maryland, it's like he's not forgetting about what he built Penn State into. But now he's widening that base and he's getting into the deep South. And obviously, we expect probably Florida kids to start hopping on. And I think that's the piece. Because if you tell Doug, we're a little bit older than you, but if you ask us, like, what made Virginia Tech back in the day, it was Pennsylvania, Maryland, Jersey, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and then some Florida kids. Those 8 states.
Duval and the Fort Lauderdale area.
In the Fort Lauderdale area. And if you say he's getting that back, and it's not just he's just going in there getting a player, he is getting, in the words of Chase Johnson, a top 50 player in the state. And he's top like 400 in the country. It's like, well, wait a second. That's where it changes. So
I think another thing too, Curtis, just to kind of piggyback on what you're saying, it's like, of course, when you're talking recruiting, this the next recruit, the next class, the current class, we still have people from the 26 class that hadn't come in yet. And the reason I'm saying that is because they're going to be very pivotal parts of what we're looking at doing. Peterson, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking about the tight end from Alabama, that they've got to commit. But this kid is supposed to be there, here in just a little bit. He's a very talented tight end. You know what I'm saying? And then you think about some of the recruiting that we've done in the past. We would, maybe get a 4-star here or, get a 4-star here, and then we forget the position for 2 or 3 years. Yeah. Tommy Wilder's not even on campus yet. He's a 4-star, lineman that we're still waiting. Fat Rat Brown, when you talk about those kids coming in, and then you already are stacking other kids behind them, that's how you build the depth. You know what I'm saying? It seems like it's just been, that last recruiting cycle. Now we're moving into this one, and you can see the depth starting to build with some of the positions that they're doing. So when you talk about like DeMarcus Brown and then Fat Rat Brown, both getting in there and being in that wide receiver room, because how many times at Tech have we been like, oh man, we're gonna have a great year, and this one player gets injured, and it's like it throws everything in disarray. You know what I'm saying? And I get it. Star players are star players for a reason. But how many times does that happen at other schools? Somebody gets injured and then a star is born. You know what I'm saying? This person gets injured and somebody else steps up and, they have a great year for that team. I don't wish for anybody to get injured by no means. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying you got to have depth in football. And I think that's one of the big things that we have lacked in the past. And I can see with the recruiting and the people that they brought in through the transfer portal that it's getting a lot better. So,
yeah, that's the big thing with the blue chip ratio is something I follow pretty closely. The ratio of 4 stars and 5 stars you get compared to everyone else. Indiana finally broke it from the national championship perspective, but it's still like a good metric in terms of, do you have enough talent on the roster to survive the injury, to survive the portal guy, to survive that? Like, it's a measure of kind of the margin for error you've given yourself for all the roster shenanigans that happen these days in college football. If you're like, you see it at the NFL draft now all the time, but like if you recruit 4 stars and 5 stars more often, like you're going to be fine the vast majority of the time.
Yep.
100%.
Tech's at 11. Go ahead.
You go ahead. Finish off. I
was just going to say Tech's at 11 blue chips since Franklin took over, which is a class and a half, I guess. Class and a quarter. That's the most in a 2-class period. Or that's the third most in a 2-class period, 25, 26, and then going back that 2017, 2018, 2019 run that Fuente was on before it went sour. And that's basically it for the last 25 years of Virginia Tech football. So like he's already approaching like the most talent that has ever been brought in such a short period of time.
Yeah, and the problem with, when you look at the Fuente situation is that talent came in the building, but most of it quickly went out of the building.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's where someone like James Franklin, who has, even in the transfer portal and NIL time frame, has done a really good job of retaining the talent that he recruits. So that's where that comes into play as well. And with, you talk about the pillars that he has for the program, recruiting your current roster and keeping those guys in the building, making sure that they're locked in, they understand what their role in the team is, and taking care of those guys. That's been a priority for him. It was a priority at Penn State, and he's doubled down on that commitment, it sounds like, at Virginia Tech so far. So that's going to be important moving forward as well. And it's good to have someone like Franklin that has a history of navigating not only getting talent in the building, but keeping that talent in the building.
I think his history is probably what drives a lot of that. It's like, yeah, you can leave, but you're not guaranteed to find somebody better. Like, you're taking a pretty sizable risk to leave a James Franklin coach program.
Yeah.
Maybe that ends up being more true at a Penn State type program than Virginia Tech, but it's still that kind of like trust and track record that sells itself of like, I'm already here and I'm close. If you're not close, you're probably going to leave anyway. But for those guys that are close and could go either way, it feels like with a little bit more track record, a little bit more winning, it becomes harder and harder to leave a coach like Franklin.
Yeah. And to Tally's point, I mean, you talk about the injuries, when we looked at last year, I mean, we had really 3 position groups that were, an injury or an opt-out from being, okay, we can live with the talent that we have, to, all right, this room is a problem. And that, it's cornerback, it's offensive line, it was defensive line, particularly defensive end. We couldn't rush the passer. We already had a cornerback room in shambles, and that's a recipe to not have a very good defense. And if you can't protect your quarterback, then you've got all sorts of other problems on the other side of the football. So that's how a season that wasn't going to be good to begin with went off the rails pretty quick last year.
And then to your point, Doug, with like Franklin and his track record, well, when literally after the NFL draft, they start popping up, oh, well, look, what schools have the most NFL talent? And it's like Penn State is 6th, and it's just like we get to raise our hand and be like, hey, that head coach is here now. That head coach is here. He's not up there anymore. He's down here. It's like they're literally doing a sales pitch for the new coach to a new program, which is unbelievable. All right. Speaking of blue chips, that ratio has a potential chance to get even better on Thursday with Peter Bork. If y'all, I have a feeling our audience knows, but if y'all have not looked up Peter Bork, this is 247. This is Doug's site. He is the 7th ranked quarterback in the country. He is the 80th ranked player in the country. He is the top player in Massachusetts. He is 6'4". He is 220 pounds. His offer list is long, and it seems like it's down to Georgia. His offer list is insanely long with a lot of really good teams. It seems like it's down to Georgia and us. Doug, whatever you can tell us how you're feeling about this, let us know, because we are right at 36 hours or so.
Yeah.
I think he's announcing in the morning.
I do not know when he's announcing exactly. I think last I saw that was still TBD.
It's Thursday sometime, right?
Thursday sometime. I'm not sure when exactly Thursday.
12 p.m. They got it up.
Yeah. All right.
So we are right at 36 hours.
This is really a fascinating kind of, when you think about where Virginia Tech was in the fall, and now they're recruiting one of the top quarterbacks in the country against Georgia and Penn State. It's pretty ridiculous. But it's just a fascinating, like, this level of recruiting is something Virginia Tech has not done, and like has not competed for this level of recruit in who knows how long. Maybe Josh Sweat was the last one way back when. But like today, they just, the story just came out of his high school, I think, hosted a camp of sorts, a showcase, and Georgia, Penn State, Virginia. This guy's deciding in less than 48 hours, and all 3 staffs are right there on the sideline watching him. So it's just like, this is the recruiting that you do at the top of the SEC and the top of the Big Ten.
Yep.
And for his level of quarterback at the most important position on the field, it's a big one. I have no idea where it's going to go. I think you get down as tight as this has been, and with all the dominoes, you start following The Wood kid that Penn State is supposedly like, I don't know whether he's their number one choice or he's their fallback option. Apparently Georgia's been recruiting other quarterbacks. So you start to try and follow the musical chairs of what's happening. So we'll see. The other thing that I'll say at this level of recruit is that crazy things happen at the last second. Programs decide to go for it when they decide to spend that extra resource to make it happen if that's what they need to get it across the finish line. So I think the next 48 hours or less than 48 hours at this point will probably generate one of those great post-signing day stories of like what it was like going back and forth, especially in today's age with all the agents and stuff. But like getting him on the heels of getting, Troy Hoon last year, another 4-star quarterback, really sets up Tech's quarterback room with a lot of high level talent. And that's what you need to do at the quarterback position is land one of those guys every year. Eventually you hit a home run on them, and you'll have a higher hit rate when you're recruiting at the Bork level than Keldon Ryan, no disrespect to him, but Knox Kadum, all the guys that Tech was trying to do that with, Pop Watson, like good strategy. It's just going to take a while to find the diamond in the rough kind of thing at that level of quarterback recruiting. But Hoon and followed by Bork would be quite impressive and kind of set up the next probably phase 2 of the Franklin era. If you think about Grunkemeyer being phase 1.
Yeah, I think if you're able to land Bork, I think that would be the highest composite quarterback commit since Logan Thomas. So
it wasn't really a quarterback commit
exactly,
at the time, right? I saw somebody was discussing it today on our board about Brian Randall was probably the late he's the best since Brian Randall, which was 02, 03.
Yeah.
In terms of quarterback prospect.
Yeah, it's wild, man. It's going to be interesting to see how the next 36 hours shake out because that's something that can that has a ripple effect across the rest of the class. Getting somebody like that in the building. So excited to see how that shakes out for the Hokies and what sort of ripples it causes for the rest of the class, and whether it has that coattails effect that you sometimes see with a recruit like that.
Yeah. So, Tally, anything y'all want to put a cap on?
Scared to death. Scared to death. I ain't gonna lie to you. Scared to death.
He's gonna be Tally ain't getting nothing done at work on Thursday until that commitment. So he's gonna be refreshed. Going on the boards, following Doug, following Evan, following Matei. We getting him?
I've been on the boards too much. There's been all kind of stuff going on. That's a paywall, so I ain't gonna tell y'all. If y'all want it, they give good deals. Go on there, get your subscription. But I can say, man, it still is exciting just to see. But I don't know, man. It's just usually me being a Virginia Tech fan, this doesn't end well for us. Speaking of don't end well for us, why did the offensive lineman had to throw our hat?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Why did he have to throw our hat? What did we do to it?
What did we do to him? We didn't do anything to him.
I don't know.
He said that kid, if he fails at life, he got to come back to Roanoke. I need a job. No, you ain't getting a job here. Go on elsewhere. Don't you head up north?
You head on back to Gainesville, brother.
Head back to they ain't going to Gainesville. All right, so we're going to kind of put a wrap on recruiting. Again, great spots. Thanks, Doug, for all the info there, the insights, and just your thoughts on that, because we do respect them significantly. Let's flip up to what we said we were going to talk about initially, because, we want to bring these things up because we have not talked about them. And obviously, over the last few weeks, a couple things have happened within the realm of Virginia Tech that may not directly affect the football program, but the strategies and all that stuff are going to be affected significantly. And that is Tim Sands announces his retirement. So Doug, obviously you were there as an undergrad when Sands first came on, correct? And obviously you've seen the last decade plus of, everything that's happened. But what's just your two thoughts? Thoughts on him in general for what he did at the school, and then the thought on how this retirement and when this retirement's happening.
I think it's hard to not being in tune with what makes a truly successful president of university on the academic side. It's a little hard for me to pass a grade on him overall. I think, I know the Amazon thing up in Northern Virginia is going to be a long-term, great long-term play for Virginia Tech. I know he also hired Charlie Flieger, who's Virginia Tech's advancement director of advancement, I guess. Who, if you look at their university side fundraising numbers over the last 10 years, he retired last summer, I guess, end of last summer. Flieger did, but that was a smashing success as well. So you can point to some stuff that sounds good. I'm sure other people who are way more in tune with university rankings and all that stuff. I know AAU membership has been a big goal. That's been something that was frequently in Board of Visitors meetings, discussions in terms of where's Virginia Tech in terms of its peers that are a member of the AAU, so that you can tell they want to get in there, and it didn't happen under his watch. So maybe that's something that you ding him for, but I don't know. I think overall, then you bring in the athletics discussion, which was just a fail.
Yep.
Just there's no other way to look at that. He was the president. Virginia Tech was not successful in football, except you can give them 2016 and 2019. The athletic director who was in charge of athletics was still the athletic director until the very end. It's just that will be a big part of his legacy. Just like it's a big part of Steger's legacy in terms of what Virginia Tech was able to do in athletics during his tenure. So that's notable. As far as the departure, going back to athletics, it definitely sped it up. The rumors for a long time were that he was going to wrap up in 27 and ride off into the sunset, retire then. Was probably going to give Virginia Tech a nice, patient presidential search on that timeline, but the just lack of success on the football side eventually led this Board of Visitors to take the action that they have taken over the last, since that August presentation, and sped all of this up. Sands is writing editorials and Inside Higher Ed about the future of college sports a month before his announcement. I think he still probably wanted to retire in 27 as planned, but when the timeline just got out of whack when Tech was not successful in athletics, and they could not wait to replace him and try and hire a new athletic director and all that stuff. It had to flow in that sense, so they had to push him out a little earlier than I think the intended plan would have been.
I'm going to say this, Brian. I know you're going to kind of jump into the next thing. His statement still, I think it was 18. Eventually, this college sports bubble is going to burst. 8 years later, Timmy, it ain't burst, buddy. It's just gotten bigger, and his thought process on it has been completely incorrect. It's gotten bigger. It's got even stronger with some of the TV deals. And to me, again, not from a higher education, because I think from an education point of view and what he did for that, wonderful. But when he said that irritated a lot of people. We didn't go there. Me, Brian, and Tally didn't go there like you do. Me and Brian got in. Tally played football down at Jacksonville State. But it's we didn't go here, but this is our team. This is our team from when we were, 10, 11, 12 years old. And then you say that, it kind of irks you, because it's kind of the reason why this university built so big was the late 1990s and the boom of football, and when Michael Vick played, and how much the enrollments. Our friend Robbie, who was in the chat earlier, he was basically, I'm going to get into Tech. And then Michael Vick happened, and then it was, I'm not going to get into tech anymore. So I want to say that because I will never forget him saying that and that coming out, because it was like, dude, you don't know how crazy college football fans are. We spend lots of money. We're stupid. To a sense. So,
I think, well, that was in 18, you said, right?
I think it was 18. It was
well, then, like I mentioned, the Inside Higher Ed editorial he writes, and then he signed on. This all happened in the last like 4 months, but he signed on to another letter with 3 other university presidents. His last 2 big like public leadership attempts were the letter that signed where they basically said, please follow the rules, guys. And then the Inside Higher Ed one, which he said, where he tried to pitch the reality that athletic departments should take, I forget what the exact wordage was, but it was like, you should be okay with having less success so that we can figure this out. Like winning is, you should be okay with winning less, competing less. And I'm like, it's like LSU literally just spent $150 million to lure Lane Kiffin away, and now you're telling them that they should like care a little less about their athletic program. Those were the 2 moments where I was just like, it's coming to an end soon, and I would love to know if those, him signing on to that and doing that, like sped up the process a little bit, because at that point, like it just was like that kind of, and I think we'll get into what Virginia Tech needs in the next president from an athletic standpoint, but it's just like that can't be the opinion of the president of Virginia Tech, especially after you just put $230 million into athletic department.
Yeah.
2 words that James Franklin likes: institutional alignment. And the other thing that I'll talk about a little bit before we get to the next thing is that the problem that I had with Sands from an athletic department standpoint and just an athletics in general standpoint is that you can either be proactive or reactive, and at our best, we were always reactive, meaning that we had to show that it wasn't working before we made any changes. And I think that's where, Virginia Tech for a long time coasted on the fact that Frank Beamer was able to do a lot with what he was given. And we never modernized from an operational standpoint, from a funding standpoint, to still maintain a competitive program with our peers. And I'm not just talking about competing for a national championship or winning the ACC. I'm talking about just to be competitive in the ACC. And we were not doing that. And part of that comes from leadership. Like if you're not recognizing that that's a problem, you've got to have a solution for that. And you've got to look at where things are going and take some risk on there in the process. And I feel like we were so risk averse and chasing our tail for the majority of his tenure that you get to a point where you finally get the BOV that recognizes the issue and makes this investment, but you've got to have leadership that are bought in. So you've got to have a president that's bought into that vision. You've got to have an athletic director, which we'll talk about in a little bit, that's bought into that vision. So it's an exciting time from an athletic standpoint because you get to get some new blood in here, and hopefully someone that sees how athletics drives everything else that happens at Virginia Tech. Athletics is such a big part of what makes Virginia Tech a great place to go to school, a great place to go to a game, a great place to go visit. If you're not putting that as a big piece of the overall university experience, then you're missing the point. Let's pivot a little bit though. Let's talk about like what with the new president, what do you know about kind of the process of what's happening next on that front, and what that timeline looks like?
Timeline's going to be interesting because most of these searches take a long time. I think that was the plan. Like if Sands was able to retire in 27, to give a nice, long, drawn-out search. It's one of those, like I was saying on the academia side, like candidates who knows who's interested in this job, all that stuff. They had a board of visitors meeting yesterday where the search firm they hired, Isaacson Miller, gave a little presentation. They had a meeting earlier in the week, I think, for like faculty and students to weigh in, which I'm not sure how much that is just a required thing or whether they're actually taking the opinions of those people into the search. So I think the first thing has been done. They've hired this search firm, Isaacson Miller, to run it and to start kind of vetting potential candidates. I don't know where they'll go. It's pretty similar. It's kind of similar in terms of like where they're going with the athletic director search. Of do you take somebody who's come up in the traditional administration of universities, or do you go outside and kind of hire an outsider from the business world or politics or something like that, who's not just like kind of like Sands was the provost of Purdue before he became the president of Virginia Tech. So like that's going to be an interesting decision on where they want to go in that direction. But I think it's gonna take months, because these searches, even if you wanted to do them in a hurry, like that takes months. And then, you get into all the political appointee stuff and the board of visitors stuff, and like getting all that lined up and approved and all that. I think you're looking into the summer at the very earliest, even that feels fast to me. So, and I think, I don't know, like the leaks of names and how frequent that'll be, and like how you can really kind of grasp who the true candidates are. Because I don't know how you would have identified Tim Sands, the provost of Purdue, as the top candidate.
Well, I'm gonna say this, Doug. I think with like how you research, I do think if you're wondering who the next Virginia Tech president is, you better be following Doug, and you better be subscribed to 247, because like the BOV, you've been so good at getting those minutes and getting them out there quickly to folks and saying this is what was being said. You've done a great job analyzing it. I mean, no, kudos to you, man, because a lot of those, like when that stuff was going on in August, like I'm trying to read and I'm like, okay, I understand some of this, and some of it's like, where's Doug? Like, where's Doug? Because Doug's gonna do something good. I'm gonna be able to like consume it. So again, I give you your props, but let me ask this, and we talk about sports, but like, if you had to choose like a perfect candidate, like I want them from like this type of school, this type background, do you have like 3 or 4 things, like if they check a couple of those boxes, whereas you're reading like about a candidate like this guy, please pick this guy, like University of Georgia, Deep South guy, like what's your mentality on that?
I mean, I think you kind of went in that direction of, it's got to be somebody who is from a football school that understands the importance of football to a school. I think it also needs to be somebody that the school has been at the forefront, towards the forefront of the changes in college athletics over the last 10 to 15 years, or even the last 5 years since COVID. Like if your school hasn't been, and you were in a leadership, assuming you were in a leadership position there, like hasn't been successful in navigating the new world, I don't think you're going to be a candidate for this role, especially with this current board of visitors and $230 million that they want to invest in the right way and successfully turn that into wins and a sustainable business model. Like there's got to be some not only like understanding of the importance of football to the university, but also some like recent track record of this is what that university did to achieve success there. So I think those are the 2 biggest things. I think if you wanted to go outside and like I said earlier, you could have these same discussions about the athletic director role, but if you wanted to go outside of the traditional athletics role, it's like, do you have success? Have you had success kind of innovating in a business model and building something essentially from scratch in a new environment?
No, that's perfect. It kind of leads into the next thing that we talk about when you said, the AD, because we're going to talk about Mr. Whit Babcock here. But I'll start by saying I'm working, doing my thing today, and I get a ESPN little tidbit that comes through, and I'm thinking for sure it's going to say LeBron is coming back to the Lakers next year, something like that. But instead, I get a story that says James Franklin says Virginia Tech's next AD must be aggressive with football. So that is what James Franklin had to say. Doug, what say you about Whit Babcock and kind of what his status is and where Virginia Tech is moving forward?
Whit Babcock, I think the writing was on the wall for him right from the time the football search got taken from him. When you're the athletic director at the university and you don't have control over who the next head football coach is going to be, I think the clock is ticking at that point. And it was just a matter of time. They did a great job of alignment of saying, James Franklin credited Whit during the search and his work with the agents and all that stuff. But I think this was pretty planned right around the time that they decided they needed a committee instead of the athletic director to find the next head coach. I think in general, Babcock was just not, going back to what Brian was talking about, proactive versus reactive. It was just not proactive enough in improving the athletic department. I think I know John Boleyn takes a lot of heat for how long he stuck around, but there's a lot of that in the athletic department. No disrespect to them, that has been there a long time. And if you look at over the last 5-10 years of college athletics, like there's been so much change and not much change at Virginia Tech, and I think you saw a lot of that play out on the field. I know maybe that presentation ends up being Babcock's defining legacy. I think the board members, Pearson and McCarthy, were influential in even getting that on the agenda. But like I guess you could see if that investment pays off, that Babcock's legacy becomes that essentially, because I don't know that there's much else there. He hired Buzz Williams, worked out for the 5 years there, but they haven't made an NCAA tournament in men's basketball in the last 4 seasons. They've only had 2 good football years during his tenure. Like the on-field success just wasn't there to warrant how long he was the athletic director.
Well, I think then too with Whit, if sometimes he couldn't hit a layup, he couldn't read the room, and that goes back. Everybody in Hokie Nation can remember 2020 when there is you probably got notification. We start hearing, Whit's doing a press conference today. And it literally is everybody's reading the tea leaves. Oh, this is the day Justin Fuente's buyout was like $7 million. And it's like, he's firing him. Good for Whit, make that strong move. In that interview and doing it that day, it's like, you got to have a sense of what's going on inside your community, inside the walls of the athletic department. And in my opinion, just from what I saw, it was 12 years, right? Because he was 2014. Is that right?
Yep.
Like in the beginning, it was okay because football was still okay. And then he made the Fuente hire where it looked like, oh, wow, he got one of the hottest main coaches. He knew what he's doing. And then after like 2019, it was just like, fallacy after falling on your face after doing something dumb over and over again. And it was just like, oh my God, this is terrible. And 2020 is just the cap. That's just the cap that no one will ever forget that, because most people, most universities, most athletic directors would see, if we're going to keep him, I definitely shouldn't do it that day because every single person in the world are going to think we're fine.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that when Brian was talking about Sands, but like that decision, and I think Sands and Babcock both have the same amount of blame for that decision of at that point of Fuente's tenure, and I know it was right after COVID, so everything was wonky. I think at that point of Fuente's tenure, it should have been pretty clear that he was not as interested in recruiting as you were going to need to be successful. That was what, 2016, 17, 18, 19, so 5 seasons in. If you're as proactive and like engaged in the program as you need to be, I think, as an athletic director these days, or a president, that should have been a lot clearer that giving him another year is probably not going to change much. And so that just ended up being essentially a wasted year there in 2021 during a time when Tech's roster was pretty well stocked too. Like, those 2 seasons were, the 2020 roster was fantastic. It just got wrecked by COVID. And then the 2021 was projected to be pretty good if they could have gotten the quarterback position right.
100%.
Yeah, and when we look at Whit, and to Curtis, to your point, that presser was like a double whammy, because it's like you expect him to get fired, and instead, Whit comes out there, and it's like
double down, baby.
Doubling down on the choice, and then like pointing the fingers. When he started pointing the fingers at fans, of like, okay, well,
what?
We're not going to pay attention to fans. They're probably not giving that much anyway to the program. We're like, really?
What?
We're gonna go there. We're gonna hit there. At the end of the day, and I know like you can't make all of your decisions based on fan sentiment, and I get that. Like, but the writing was on the wall. Fuente was at best going to be a lame duck coach heading into the 2021 season, barring a 9+ win season.
Mm-hmm.
And when you aren't able to recruit, you don't do a good job of recruiting where you need to be recruiting. It was just a recipe for disaster. And, you ended up in the same place that you were going to be anyway, 1 year later. And I think, when you talk about the, this like parting shot being kind of part of that legacy, for me, it's great that it's happening, but it's absolutely too little too late in a lot of ways, because, if you had been this proactive incrementally, you wouldn't have to have this huge influx of cash into the athletic department all at once and have to completely restructure what you're doing. And this goes back to his leadership starting in 2014. I mean, this is something where, Fuente comes in and recruiting wise was kind of just handed the playbook that Beamer had, and, had some decent success with that. But instead of incrementally working more staffers into that recruiting program, more money into the ability to recruit, more money into the staff, into the coaching staff itself. We just didn't do the little things incrementally along the way to set ourselves up for success. And a lot of that falls back on Whit. The coach can only work with what he's been given. And that's not to say that Fuente or Prime maximize that necessarily, but at the same time, you were kind of playing with one hand behind your back from Jump Street because of the way the athletic department was structured and the amount of investment and overall plan that Whit had for the program. Tally, what you got?
I mean, when you think about ADs, I mean, it's kind of like 4 key factors that you're going to look at, like their adaptability. So what they're going to do in the landscape of sports, facility upgrades, coaching hires, and generating revenue. Like, when we just look at it, what did Whit do? Did he do any of that good? How did he grade on that stuff? And he didn't do a good job. You know what I'm saying? Like, no disrespect to him. He didn't look like he had a good time. He always looked like somebody pissed in his oatmeal, and I would probably too. with Joe Rogers and the crew on my head every day on Twitter. But he just, he didn't do a lot of those things good. So, and then the things that he may have tried to do is a little bit too late. And some people say, well, it starts at the top. It starts with, Sands, or it starts with Ballantine or whoever. Well, all of them gone. So perfect. Let's just start fresh, because to think about some of the things that some of the leaders would have to navigate now, like who would ever thought that, you got to know about AI, you got to do social media stuff with recruits. You got to be able to talk to the people about video games. This is all things that are important. You know what I'm saying? What was the year? 2 years ago, the leaking of the Virginia Tech uniforms on college football, the video game. Just little stuff like that probably don't make the biggest difference on if you're a good AD or not, but those little details can definitely be, play a part in you being good to great or average to good. So long, Whit. Go and find you something else to do, man. I hope you go and.
Well, no, he's hanging around. He's
I
hang around and give
I want him to
golf
go
offers.
ahead and go. I want him to go ahead and get out.
All right,
Yeah.
Doug, we kind of got to this spot, and back, if y'all check out April 25th, Doug, you wrote again a great article about the 9 names to know. Go read it. He's not going to give all 9 names right now, but give me a couple of your, who do you like? You've been doing the research. You've been reviewing what they've been doing elsewhere. Give me 2-3 guys that you like, and then if you had to say right now, and I know it's not going to be next month or the month after, we got to get the president in place first, so it's going to be even longer than waiting for the president. Who would be your choice?
I'll be curious to see if they actually do wait for the president,
Really?
and if the timeline has to, because I don't know if the president's going to. I feel like you could hire an AD or whatever they want to call this role much faster than you could hire a university president. So that's one of the big questions of can you truly do it? It's kind of the same question that we had back when they first fired Pry, of all right, well, if you're gonna fire Whit, can you hire an AD in time to hire the football coach? Or so it's the same kind of timeline nonsense that Virginia Tech's been dealing with for the last several months. I wrote that article. It's a mix of names I've definitely heard and names that I kind of I think they would be involved with any major opening at this point of their careers in college athletics. And then I tried to identify some of the people in college athletics that fit that kind of outsider business experience. I wrote in that article, trying to identify an actual business outsider who's interested in becoming an athletic director in college athletics right now. I don't know how to do that. I would love to be able to tell you that the vice president of brand strategy for Fanatics wants to get into college athletics, or something like that, but who knows? So you look at the trend that people identify with that is North Carolina hired a NASCAR person, Stanford hired a former Nike executive. So you get those adjacent sports executive type positions. So I was trying to identify, because some people have hired them as deputies in their athletic department. So I was trying to identify some of those types of people. Jared Binko at Auburn, Julie Cromer at LSU. Those two are on my list. I think those would be more of the traditional hire. They're up and comers in the industry that are probably interested in just about, like I said, every major job. I think the notable thing, and one of the things on my criteria list, is that so Benko was the athletic director at Georgia Southern for 4 years, and Cromer was the athletic director at Ohio University. So not P4 experience, but you were the top dog. You were the person calling the shots, much in the same way that I think that pays off for James Franklin with all his experience. I think having experience in the number one role of a huge enterprise is a prerequisite must have. So they left those jobs to take deputy roles at Auburn and LSU. to advance their careers. So I think they make sense if they're going to go the traditional route. I had another guy on the list, Joe LeBeau, who's at Maryland. Fit what I was looking for from like yes, he's in college athletics right now, but he's got plenty of outside experience. He was the president of Charlotte FC, the MLS franchise down in Charlotte. Before that, he worked at Monumental Sports, the parent company for the Wizards and Capitals. So I was like, that's outside business experience, still in the sports world, running, which is essentially what Virginia Tech Athletics is becoming, is a mini pro sports franchise with what I assume to be plenty of business connections in the DMV and Charlotte, which are two of Virginia Tech's biggest most important metro areas. So like when I saw his resume, I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So I put him on the list. Those are the three I think probably stand out the most from that list I wrote. I was glad to see David Teal came out with an article shortly thereafter, or maybe before. I didn't see it till after, if he was first on it, but that had some of the same names, which I was like, all right, that's a good sign that we're on the right track here. So we'll see what happens. I know that there is interest in the completely outside candidate from business or from not college athletics, basically, to become a CEO of athletics or general manager of athletics, whatever they want to call it. Given that being the trend, I just don't know that that's the direction they end up going once they start interviewing these people. Like one of these more traditional candidates could crush the interview and be like, actually, they could do the job that we're looking for completely. I remember back when they were trying to hire a head football coach that they thought they were going to hire a general manager first, and then they backed off that plan when they realized that it wasn't feasible. So we'll see what happens overall, but I think those are the three buckets that you can look at, of like up and comer, traditional, somebody that was like recently hired at an athletic department that fits that outsider model, or somebody completely out of left field. But like I said, I don't know how you identify those people, because I don't know how to project people's interest in becoming an athletic director in college sports today. That's one of the kind of storylines I'm watching. Like Babcock gave some interviews to media this week, and they asked him if he was ever going to work in college athletics again, and he was like, absolutely not. Like, he's like, I'm done. Like, this is terrible and not that fun. And it's like, all right, so how can I project somebody from some very successful company who's already a high up executive there that they're going to want to move to Blacksburg and get involved in this?
Sure.
I think that'll be an interesting question to ask whoever does end up getting the job.
Who was the guy at Maryland you said?
Joe LeBeau.
Joe LeBeau, because that seems like it's like
that's the kind of experience that
Yeah.
fits, whether it's him or somebody with that same kind of experience, where they can send out the press release and you can say, yeah, that makes sense.
Are you looking primarily for, if you go the traditional route, someone that's coming from kind of a P4 football focused university versus
Must have.
Yeah, like,
But it's got to be. It's a completely different world than the G5, or I would even say you're looking at the P2. Like,
yeah, okay.
It's
like I've seen people float like Matt Roan out there, and I'm like,
Roan would be somebody. Yeah, I don't think you can win the PR battle if you hire the JMU athletic director.
Yeah.
But also, like, he's the guy that I think would make would kind of do what Banco did at Auburn or Cromer did to LSU, where they had to leave the G5 job to go take a deputy job at a P4, P2 school to kind of work to truly take the next step. Yeah. Because I think without experience, and he doesn't have any experience at the P4, much less the P2. Without that experience, it's just you're not going to be hireable. Because of how different it is, and especially with Virginia Tech's gonna be a $200 million enterprise. Like, it's just different.
It is. Who's your guy? You wrote 9. You probably got. There's probably somewhere in your computer. There's like 30 other people that you have names of.
Yeah, there was a lot more on the list, and I was like, I can't write all these people. If I had to pick somebody off my list, it would be Banco at Auburn. Like, that's the kind of school that cares about football a lot. Ran his own athletic department, according to his bio, had a ton of success raising money, and is now the number 2 at a high P2 institution in terms of how much they are investing in athletics, which you can see by their coaching decisions over the last several years. So if I had to pick one off the list, I'd probably go with him. Like I said, I don't know where to start with. All right, pick somebody from outside.
Yeah, I know that's probably a much harder ask. The traditional route is probably a little bit easier to quantify.
Yeah, it's the same thing as looking for a head coaching candidate, where you can see the experience. There's so many people that probably the experience lines up. I know Syracuse, he just retired, but you hire an ESPN guy, like a media exec would fit too, in today's world. But the possibilities are endless on that side.
All right, Tally, Brian, anything else floating out there? I'm gonna tell you what I've been doing, Doug. All the names, I have literally started reading biographies of ADs for the last few minutes here. LeBue's thing is interesting. I'm gonna put LeBue out there because that gives you what you're talking about. Heavily involved, not only with FC, but with Tepper's stuff with the Panthers, the professional football level, and then he's dipped his toe into the collegiate world. So there's he has that experience both ways. So again, I don't know everything it takes, but but you're kind of selling me on having that. Be outside of college sports, but in sports in some way, but get some experience in, or to your point, go run your own. And if somebody was at Ohio's been a pretty successful MAC program the last decade. It has. They're always one of the teams in the MAC championship. And if you're putting that kind of emphasis on football at a smaller program where they're staying good, you're getting those people to invest within the program, then you know that they have some sort of sales pitch that works great.
Yeah, the executive experience, whatever you want to call it, having run your own department is huge. I think we're seeing that with James Franklin, the difference of how he runs the program versus Brent Pry. I mean, Brent Pry was right next to James Franklin his entire career and couldn't replicate it as a head coach because he'd never done it before. But you bring in a guy that has done it for 12 years, you bring in an athletic department that has experience running their own shop, so to speak. I think that's the big thing. Or if it's outside, I guess you got to be a C-suite type person that has that responsibility, has that decision-making experience, and kind of that leadership ability that you need to do what Virginia Tech wants to do with the $230 million that they're investing into the athletic department.
100%. Valid, Brian, y'all got anything else y'all want to ask, though, before we get ready to wrap this up?
Yeah, just the only thing I would say, I've been reading the chat for the last, maybe 5-10 minutes. And VPI _13 said he's just giving Whit his props, and that's fine, giving him his flowers. But hey, man, no moral victories. He didn't do a good job. I don't care if he's a good guy. I don't care that he came and shook hands. I like James Franklin, but if he don't win no football games, he need to go. He ain't coach yet. The moral victory thing is over. Again, I'm just speaking my truth. He said when he presented James Franklin at the press conference, I saw a man that had been putting himself through the ringer to set VT up for success. No, he is put himself through the ringer to get paid. He is a millionaire because he didn't do a good job. Not only did he not do a good job at Virginia Tech, what was he at Cincinnati before?
Yeah,
didn't do a good job there either. So I can't say that. And then Bassmaster, my guy, he said Whit gave us James Franklin, kinda. So his legacy is still unwritten. So I'm thinking that he got some sarcasm in there, but Whit didn't have nothing. I mean, he might have had a little bit to do with it, but he wasn't.
Doug, you kind of said it a little earlier. He might have been able to call the agents and make some moves. Jay Peterson, Bud Foster, and some of those guys on BOV, the rector. Why can't I think of his name?
Rakovich
is maybe the best rector of the BOV for athletics in Virginia Tech history. He was there in the early part of the 2000s, and he made those moves to get into the ACC. That's a game. Again, this is funny. We're talking about rectors of board of visitors, but every time that guy has been rector, something really good happens for Virginia Tech athletics. So, he said he don't do moral victories.
Perfect. We won the same then.
Let's go.
I'm tired of moral victories. I want to win.
We want wins. We want to be hooping and hollering and screaming on Saturday nights about wins, not about moral victories. But Doug, man, listen, the last 90 minutes plus has been a blast. Thank you for bringing your insight, your knowledge on all this stuff. We really appreciate you joining us tonight. And with that being said, I'm going to wrap up this episode of the Boundary Corner podcast, brought to you by Moments on the Moor in Lexington, along with our special guest, Doug Bowman. Check him out at Doug Bowman 247. Sign up at 247 to read all of Doug's awesome articles and the stuff he's going to be coming out with as this president search happens, as this AD search happens. He's going to be the man on the mission there. My name's Curtis Wilson.
I'm Brian Siegler.
Jonathan Talley.
Visit boundarycornerbt.com to listen to all of our episodes. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your favorite podcast source, please go there as well. We are on them all. As always, we let our buddy Jason Long play us in, play us out. Check him out at jasonlongmusic.com to link to all of his music on all of his formats. Also, check out that little live page. He is doing a lot of events down in the Roanoke area this summer, so check him out when you can. I appreciate y'all for listening. We appreciate the chat. Thank y'all for being so active tonight. And as always, let's go.
Hokies.